All right, we are live and on record for our April 4th meeting of the Minerva Park Charter Commission. Rainey, the charter chair, is feeling ill today, so I will be running the meeting. I'm Kelly Parks. Do we want to go around the room and say our name real fast for all the members that are present?
Right. Shelley. Nina.
Brian.
Linda.
Sid. Eddie. Paul. Evan.
And Kelly. And as of right now, we have no guests with us today. So last week we heard from our village fiscal officer. That was very informative. Did anyone have any comments, questions, concerns about the things that she had to share at the last meeting? I know Brian wasn't able to be there for it, so I thought it was very informative.
Yeah.
I mean, she answered a lot of questions. I feel a sense of great self-confidence that I didn't have before. Because she seems to be right on top of the detail. There wasn't a question we asked her she couldn't answer. I sense enormous accountability from her and responsibility and attention to detail. And when we've had so many other elements of information that has been discussed or mentioned over time, it didn't sound quite as sunny. It was good to hear something so strong and so confident. I'm very happy that we have her.
And it was interesting that she asked us what our aims and goals are.
It was wonderful.
That's wonderful.
She cares about this, and that's lovely.
I did take a few notes from some of the things that she said, or, she had kind of some suggestions and thoughts herself, because we asked her, what would you like to see in this? I wrote down laundry list of ordinances that are automatically effective immediately and don't require the emergency designation. She obviously sees the same problem that we do, that word emergency is problematic. So that might be something that we want to go back into the legislative article and kind of put some more thought into that at some point.
That was one of the things she said that I thought was helpful, related to if it's something that needs attention, but we don't want to call an emergency, to frame it as a resolution as an alternative. That's the first time I ever heard anybody say that. Do you remember when she said that?
I don't remember it being said that way, I guess. Was that,
Yeah.
was that what she was saying?
We don't actually know.
The problem is that a resolution and an ordinance are two different things. I don't know. I would say probably not today, but we might want to think about setting a time for ourselves to kind of go back to that legislative section and just revisit some stuff. Some other things that she had to say. We asked her, in her opinion, based on her experience, what would be her preference on, or what would she see as an ideal dollar amount as the floor for when requiring bidding on a project. I wrote down 100K and 50K. I don't know if she gave us. She said
50K was too low, and then she said it was 100.
100 would be her suggestion.
That's the stuff that we
So any project,
did.
basically, if it's under that, you wouldn't have to require public bidding. Yeah.
Would that be enough in line in this section in the charter where it says, so nothing we can't do is immediate, take effect immediately?
Her suggestion, was kind of similar to what Ryan had been getting at back when we first went through the project. She was just framing it a different way, I think.
So that would be.
Sounds like I haven't watched that meeting yet, so I
Yeah.
don't know for sure.
She asked us if we could very clearly define who is in charge of the fiscal officer, which that's no surprise. And I think that was it that I wrote down. Anything else to go over from our talk with Kim. Any other new or old business, I guess, before we start digging in? Because the primary thing I'd like to get to today is going through Article 5 and 6 and seeing how much of that we can get hammered out and approved as mayor and administrator. Anything we need to talk about before we start digging into that? 21 minutes. Oh, yes,
They're the ones from the drafting subcommittee.
yes, Evan emailed those out. Does anyone have a problem with approving those minutes today? So I move that we approve Evan's draft of the charter meeting minutes from March 21st.
Second.
Brian seconds, all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstained? Those minutes are approved. Are we gonna hold off on last week's because Pam's notes are not?
Yeah, she said she was gonna work on it.
Okay.
I don't know why I understood.
Okay. All right,
No, you know who else isn't coming? Is Pam not coming?
we're missing Pam, Dick, Deb, and Rainey. We know Rainey's not coming. I didn't see an email from the other three. Okay, well, there we go.
It's unlike Pam not coming, not notify somebody.
I didn't see an email as of like 4:30 or so. I did.
Yeah.
But she didn't say she wasn't coming. Here she is.
Alright, Pam and Dick are with us. Rainey is not feeling well, so she's not here, asked me to step in. We talked very briefly, just to catch you two up, we talked very briefly about last week's meeting with Kim, kind of reiterated some of the things that she had suggested, and we approved the March 21st meeting minutes. Pam, we're giving you more, or we're obviously not approving last week's yet, because they're not quite ready yet, right?
The words are there, but not always.
Excellent.
I'd be happy to have a little more time.
All right, so if no one has anything else, I'd like to start digging into Article 5. I have a draft ready to go or ready to review. It is up on the screen. Is that big enough for everybody to see? A little bigger. How's that?
That's good.
All right. So, kind of the same way we did this last time I was in charge, which is haphazardly and in a confused fashion. With gusto. And, you know, whatever you gotta do, I guess. All right, so I took, again, some of this is copy paste. I think a lot of this one's copy paste. I didn't really end up having to do a ton of custom language. So 501 is pretty straightforward. It's kind of just like we did with council term and qualifications. We've got the mayor shall be elected by popular vote of the village electors on a nonpartisan ballot for a 4-year term, beginning on the first day of January following the election. Candidates shall have been qualified electors for at least 6 months. We had agreed to that in the review session. I put this in, you'll see that I just highlighted it. This is redundant. I mean, we're defining it the same. We're doing this has the same definition as it does up in council section. So because I'd like to leave it in there for now, but at some point before we finalize this thing, I think we may want to have a definition section where we only have to define it once instead of people being worried about, well, what's the difference between this and defining a qualified elector up in the council section. I threw in C to kind of mirror what we did with council. That's different from what some of the other charters did. If we don't want to do that, we don't have to do that. I threw it in because I felt like it added some symmetry. You know, if what's good for the goose is good for the gander kind of thing. But it's literally the same language, just with mayor switched in place of council. So it says, you know, they can't hold other public office with that longer list of exceptions. Holding office in a political party, notary public, being in the military, representing the village, in terms of, you know, or further intergovernmental cooperation, and then holding the office that would be permitted by the charter or Ohio. Do we want to do it? Do we want that section in there, or? Yeah, okay. And this was something we talked about as we went through the memo. Office of mayor need not be a full-time position. Simple, straightforward. Do we need to go into, I feel like that's what we agreed to, and I didn't feel the need to go into any more detail on that, right?
Or just leave it out and we can decide on that.
Yeah.
So we went back and forth on that quite a bit. I guess
I don't care, I'm just.
I thought we had kind of a general consensus of, let's say affirmatively it doesn't have to be a full-time position. I don't know.
Well, it certainly introduces the idea that could shift.
Right.
Which is very different than the way it is right now.
Well, and I like having the I personally like the idea of having some flexibility in there so that if the village ends up saying, hey, we really need a full-time mayor, then they have the option to do it.
Yeah.
Anyone have any problems, questions, concerns about section 501?
No.
I'd like to move that we approve my draft language for section 501.
Second.
David seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Section 501 passes. And becomes.
Big section.
Hey, one time at a time. All right, section 502, resignation and forfeiture. So this is another one where I was kind of going for that symmetry. So it's a copy paste, but it's a copy paste from our own charter earlier up in the council section. It seemed to make sense to me anyway to use the same language as we did, as opposed to some other language and then have it not be internally consistent. So again, the mayor can resign. Now I put in here the way they resign is with a written resignation letter to the president of the council. Would that be how people would want a resignation to have to happen?
That sounds good.
Sounds good to me, but I'm not gonna presume. Now I put in, again, this is what we did with council. It's not necessarily what the other charters have done. So I kind of want people to think about this. Do we want to have the same factors and procedure and all that for mayor as we do for council? Like, we've got it set up, earlier that a council member can be considered to have forfeited their seat if they do these things, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So the only one that doesn't make sense to me is number 5.
5. I figured that would be one that would cause some discussion. I copied and pasted it over, and then I figured we'd discuss it.
In part because the mayor is not a voting member of council. We have said that the mayor is expected to, but not required to attend council meetings.
Did we say that? I thought we said they were required.
I think it's expected.
That's gonna be, where is that? Gonna be legislative? I forget where it was.
I have no idea. I have
Well,
not tell you what page. it's
I'll be
on.
honest, I'm not married to the idea of saying that the mayor gets kicked out if they fail to attend 3. Again, I copied and pasted it over.
Is the council fully functional without the mayor?
Yes. So
If
we
you
can just,
want an absentee mayor,
No,
I don't have a problem with that provision being there or not being there.
I think that any mayor that's going to be worthwhile is going to show up for council meetings.
just get rid of the
It
mayor.
seems a little bit silly to ask the mayor to attend something that they're going to anyway, and then tell them that if they don't attend without being excused by the council, who they're supposed to be working with, that they're in trouble.
are we allowed to do this too? Is this something that we can get rid of a very official, dismissing meetings?
I'm happy to verify it with Paul.
I'm just
Here's the thing, if we,
Yeah,
I guess the short answer, what seems logical to me, is if you can do it to a council member, you can do it to a mayor, they're both elected.
Yeah, it makes sense, and we can do more stuff in the charter, at least we'll vary up the whole, they were done in by community.
So my thought on this is that this provision and some of the language in C makes the mayor the holder of the council.
It does.
It is a strong shift of power because the council then has the obligation to excuse or not excuse a mayor's absence, right? And then moving forward, the next section, council shall be the sole judge of grounds of constituting forfeiture of office. Now,
Again,
I
this
was
is
not
copy
the one-
pasted.
I know, I was not the one advocating for a mayor, so I am merely pointing out that this doesn't feel like the balance of power that we were aiming for when we elected, or when we opted for a form of government with a mayor. This definitely
What
puts,
would be the alternative?
So that's my thing, I feel like there has to be a way to deal with a bad guy mayor, right? Someone, if someone's in the office, but they're committing felonies, they're, actually convicted of a crime, breaching the public trust. Yeah.
so scroll up.
Yeah.
So I think that or maybe down, sorry, I lied. Pledge who has been convicted of a felony,
Sorry.
I think that's pretty straightforward, right? That wouldn't be at the adjudication of council, that would be based on the outcome of a legal proceeding. Has pledged to have been convicted of any crime involving dereliction of duties or breach of public trust while in office. Again, I don't think that's at the discretion of council, that's merely a legal proceeding. Lacks or is found to have lacked at any time prescribed by this charter any eligibility requirements.
Which is lives in the village, is a qualified elector, blah.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel that we should leave that out.
I think
That number 5, because
Yeah.
we had said that if someone has not done a good job and has not broken the law, he gets voted out.
I mean, yeah.
and this is a weak mayor, so it's not mine.
Right.
Or
So we can delete
there's-
5 and maybe this make the thing make sense.
Well, I think 5 and even get rid of.
I'm not even so sure if they committed a crime. I mean, it happens all over the United States. Is he gonna resign or is he not? And then they go through proceedings and.
But don't you want?
I want them to be gone if there's a crime.
Right.
I would say yes.
Well, you're a lawyer,
Everything is so easy now.
How long can it,
It happens all the time.
how long can something go? And before it's decided on whether they're guilty or not?
Anywhere from a couple weeks to a year.
So it's not that.
But
Take the state law.
the standard says, what we've read, what we've written, is pled guilty or convicted of,
Yeah, not accused of.
not accused of, right?
And I wouldn't want it to be accused.
No, of course not, of course not. So I don't know that we need a council to make the determination that they have in fact pled guilty or.
Well, this doesn't say who makes the
It's
determination.
the forfeiture procedure, council shall be the sole judge of grounds constituting.
Well, that's
forfeiture of
down here,
office.
but up here, The office of mayor may be forfeited upon a determination that the mayor has pled to, or that doesn't say who makes the determination.
That's exactly what the C says.
Yeah,
I
so-
thought you were talking about eliminating C.
Yeah, so C says that council, with C as it is, the mayor could commit a felony, right? And council could decide, it could be, the council could decide, well, we don't.
No, here we go.
You're saying they're contradicting each other, they could.
Well, no, I'm saying that we're putting a lot of power in council's hands, so either, and I guess, so I just thought of a scenario. So there is, importune is like a 6th-degree felony in the state of Ohio, right? So, which is a screwy law, right? So so we have a mayor who importunes, and then council has the ability to say it was a nothing, or you've got to go. Is that what we're saying here? Because
That's the way it works as written.
that's where, and I just want to make sure that we know that it is council. I forget. I just remember when I was a reporter, we had somebody with that on his record. And it was like a way down at the
Oh, you
bottom.
can look it up.
So
Thank you.
I believe it has something to do
Well, it's solicitor person who is less than 13 years of age to engage in sexual activity.
That's right.
So it's the bottom of felony. My point is,
It's a fifth degree.
oh, pardon me. But it was at the bottom of felonious charges, right?
So, okay,
So
here's my point.
there are felonies.
any felonies, there's really almost no felonies on the books that I can think of that I wouldn't go, yeah, they probably shouldn't be mayor anymore.
No.
Oh, even that, yeah.
Even a fifth degree felony, that's not what I want my mayor to be convicted of.
Brian's a moral relativist.
You know, So, okay, so
There's just a lot of gray area.
So let's actually go, I think, more towards the concern, let's go more towards the concern that you're expressing, right?
Yeah.
So what is happening here is B is giving you a finite list of things for which a forfeiture procedure can even happen.
Yeah.
So if the mayor is a jerk, just a really awful person to be around, they have bad body odor, it just stinks to be around them. Council cannot use that as grounds to find the office to be forfeited.
That would, and.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? So I think that's an example of, at the end of the day, there has to be a way for the village to rid itself of a mayor
Yeah, sure.
that is limited.
Even if they're not, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, just like now, we have one, it's called an election.
Well, it's also a referendum, but,
I think Dick was.
We made the point, we can't, I think somebody that's been voted by the village, we can't set up a review, what kind of a job they're doing, right? We really,
Elections are 4 years.
I know, but I mean,
Dick, what did you say?
I think that if you do that, you can get a situation because the council can refuse to accept the absentee behavior of the mayor, even if there's a death or emergency travel. They could just refuse because they're mad at the mayor to accept the excuse for 3 consecutive meetings, and then they could vote them out. Okay?
Sure.
So
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of gray.
it's a difference. I'm all right with having council dealing with their own, but mayor and council, there ought to be some balance of power. And I think this one destroys it. So I would get rid of,
B.
Yeah.
of 5.
For
Is
sure.
there
5.
anyone who wants to keep, not see B5? It seems like everybody's saying to get rid of it.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, probably.
So
Easy.
another perspective on C is that a felony happens, right? There is a conviction and council can choose to deny that.
You could.
Is that the scenario that you want?
Well, the scenario I was bringing up was, because I know this was happening where, say the mayor, this is not gonna happen with our mayor, but what if she had a DUI in the park, felony charge, she gets a high-powered lawyer, they bring it down to a misdemeanor, community service, but who wants a mayor that has DUI in their own village? What do you vote them out, I guess? at the next election, well, what if it's, in that case, in that scenario, is there any way to get rid of the mayor?
In that case, I think you're looking at a referendum.
Yeah,
You'd have to-
and we will have that.
Yeah, there's gonna be a referendum later in the charter, a referendum process.
I guess if we want to keep section C, I would want to see it be maybe a supermajority votes instead of just majority votes.
I would agree with that. The reason I copy and pasted C over just wholesale is because if not council, then who?
There's gotta be somebody.
Yeah,
There is no other
That's the whole definition.
entity that you would give that power to.
Because the
Yeah,
charter
there-
does, doesn't it?
What's that?
Don't the charter, doesn't the charter do it? If they break one of the laws.
We cease
the
to
council doesn't
exist.
have to vote
We
on it.
cease to exist at the next.
I'm talking about our.
well, so
Charter.
section B lists the reasons why council can, investigate for forfeiture. Let's
Right, you
put it
can't have
that
it can't be a thing that just happens automatically on its own, because the mayor could just say, oh, well, I disagree that the criteria is met.
I don't
You have to have a deliberative body that,
Unless indeed you should make a shall. And if they have
Yeah,
pled guilty to a felony or been convicted of, if they have pled guilty or been convicted of any crime invoking dereliction of duties, right? If they fail to meet the eligibility requirements or violate any prohibited section of 501C, they shall.
so
And I think that they,
who enforces
No.
the triggering of that section?
but I also feel like they have to have an opportunity to defend themselves too. And
To council.
to council, I think it does make sense to have council do that. But that's why I want a supermajority
I
there.
don't think a supermajority is a bad idea. I think it's a good idea in a lot of scenarios where there's really important decisions.
do you remember where you got, you said this is a cut and paste?
From our
What
own.
municipality?
It's from our own, but that was also a cut and paste from one of the other charters, probably a task force. I don't know, it's been so long now, I don't remember.
In I see one.
Yeah.
The shall be so judge of grounds constituting forfeiture of office. Do you want to make reference to in line with 502? I mean,
First, I could easily say pursuant to 502B.
right, so that way, yes, they can, but they gotta do it for those reasons, not because the guys in the church, has been.
Yeah, like that.
No, don't do that.
B.
At least that's how you.
And then we wanted to do a supermajority. We'll do the number, what was the number again, 5 or 6?
I think it,
Is 6 our supermajority?
I think so.
6, 5, is it 7, 5 out of 7?
No,
That's just,
That's 2/3, right?
but I think 6 is our supermajority.
What's the definition of super?
It's further up.
I remember that we had a sign.
I think that Paul might have recommended though.
I think you did, I'm just,
That we do it
I'm
5.
blanking.
Because if it's
That
of
was
all,
5.
because it would be of all members of council, so if somebody was absent,
Yeah, it's 2/3.
Yeah, he wanted us to
It's
state
5.
a number
Yeah.
instead of percentage.
But one other person makes a difference. If you have 5 corrupt people on council, then we're in trouble.
The
really.
members of council. You good? Everybody happy? Alright. So again, I mean, you can look at the memo, there's other charters have chosen to do it a different way. You know, they don't really have this section in their charters. Is everyone, and this was kind of my idea, so I don't want to force it on people, is everyone okay with having this in place as a way to get rid of a bad mayor?
Well,
Yes,
and if there's a legal problem,
Yeah, I'm gonna email Paul and make sure that we're allowed. My strong suspicion is that the answer is gonna be yes, because if we can do this to a council member, we should be able to do it to a mayor.
And we define it well, the bad is,
The specific list of things. All right, in that case, I would like to propose that we approve the language in section 502. Sarai gets the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Section is passed. And I have written down, I'll email Paul to just get a final verification that we can do what we're doing.
And you did read 5 about the trees.
Oh, did I leave it?
You deleted.
No, I deleted it. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Your order is on the wrong line now.
Huh?
Scroll up a tiny bit. Your order is on the wrong line.
All right.
I just had it off.
Okay. All right. Vacancies. So there's two choices here. I copied and pasted over once again from our earlier article on council for how we're dealing with vacancies on council in Minerva Park. Or we had talked about using Groveport version, which I just went ahead and copied and pasted. This is how they wrote it, kind of as just one big paragraph. I'm happy to, if we would rather go with the Groveport version, I can format this into our outline format easily enough, but I wasn't gonna do that work if we decided to go with our earlier language on council.
But I think it's sort of a different animal, right? Because it's filled, I think when we talked about the duties of council, we had always said along the way that President Pro Tem would be.
Well, President Pro Tem are for temporary
Yeah.
absences. This is like straight up, the office is vacant, he has died, he has resigned, she has forfeited,
So
whatever.
we have the president of the council taking over that temporarily.
It would be temporarily while we do some kind of vacancy filling procedure.
Election.
Well, and that's what, we're kind of getting at in the way we deal with a vacancy in council is this. We listed the ways in which the office can become vacant. We said how it would be filled. We said if it, what happens if it's at the beginning, in the first 2 years of the term, the second 2 years of the term, and in the council, it was if council doesn't appoint their own new member within X days, the mayor gets to do it. You can't do that for the mayor section, so I said special election. Or we can just do it the way Groveport does it.
How is Groveport substantially different than ours?
Let's see, majority vote of the council, person serving as president pro tem has 5 days to accept and qualify as the mayor, or notify the clerk that he or she rejects. So in Groveport, the president pro tem steps up temporarily once the vacancy has been recognized, and then 5 days later, they become mayor unless they reject it.
and if they reject it, then it talks about.
Then if they reject it, there's things that happen.
I kind of like Groveport. It seems to cascade down.
Doesn't.
I don't know, though, then council has to that council has to appoint a new member, they have to have a new vote to decide the next president pro tem.
Plus it takes out of the hands of the people until the next general election.
No,
Others would do that too.
Yeah, ours would
I
be
thought
the
we
same
could
thing.
do Groveport.
keep reading Groveport, the person elected by council shall serve as mayor until January 1 following the next regular municipal election.
Oh, it's a short,
Yeah, so it is for the duration of the term. Okay, sorry, I thought it was saying.
So basically what I'm seeing, the only difference is in the language as we wrote it, council will basically elect a mayor of their own if it's not a municipal election year. Whereas Groveport, someone from council who was already elected will step up and be said mayor.
Yes,
So that's just basically, so either council is pulling somebody from outside, we would have to stipulate whether they can elect a council member or not.
Yeah, you're right.
Or if it's like someone external to council, or we could just have someone from council be the mayor. It just, I mean, those are the differences I see.
Well, it wouldn't be someone, it would be whoever was elected president of council in January of that year. So if the mayor dies in June, whoever was elected from within council to be president of council back in January would be the next mayor, would be the mayor 5 days later, unless they reject it.
If we get somebody new, they would have to learn the office, whereas if we had someone who has moved up that's been a part of things, it might be a stronger.
I gotta be honest, guys, I don't know that I really have a preference between either of those two schemes. I'm hoping that there's a consensus amongst everyone else.
Fine either way, personally.
Yeah,
I'd rather see someone who has been involved to carry on.
So if somebody is just elected, so say the mayor was just elected, it's November, January comes around, and they pass away.
okay.
You've got the president of the council becomes mayor at some point, 5 days, whatever.
So in that scenario,
Okay, but let's just say, assume they accept it from the mayor. So does that mean that we wait, they're gonna be in office for 4 years?
No, 1 year.
no, they get
They get
the whole 4 years, I
That's what
think.
I'm not so sure about.
Am I reading that right?
Well, but that person on council was
By the council, so sure.
Yeah, they were elected for council.
Community doesn't have a regular choice in that.
election.
Oh, not.
At which election,
Yeah,
qualified
yeah,
person
council person.
shall be elected mayor of the city at large for either a full year or your term.
I guess, what I don't understand, why can't you put something in the same?
I don't get.
Okay, well, I think it spells it out further down, so it's saying that.
Oh,
So,
okay.
there's a regular municipal election every 10 years. Because it's not always a mayoral election, there's a regular municipal election every 2 years.
So to answer your question, in the Grove Court scheme, the way it works with what you said, mayor is elected in November, passes away on January 15th. The president of council was elected on January 1. She steps up, she says, I'll do it, I'm the next mayor. She becomes the mayor. The next general municipal election happens.
Maybe 2 years.
So the former president, now mayor, gets 2 years to be mayor, and then there's an election for another mayor. Like a general election in Grove Court.
Because the one thing that's worried about too is, it's a lot more money if we pay for some kind of special election.
I would agree with that.
Significant election.
I
think you're,
just a general municipal.
I guess the question is, are you okay with the president pro tem sitting in for a maximum of 2 years?
2 years, that's better than 4 years.
I agree with that.
So, there's two options here, I guess. Raise your hand if you would prefer. So option one is using our council method. Option two is the
Can
Grove
we
Court
assume that
method.
we're gonna put 5 days in the X, so it's kind of those two things, not something done to worry about
Probably.
on
Sure.
B.
I don't understand why at the point of the council electing somebody on their own to be the president pro tem, it wouldn't be identified right then that if you accept that outcome, that you don't have the option of declining if it's necessary to step up.
I'm sorry,
Why are we giving them an option?
I don't think you can force someone to be.
Yeah.
They don't, they have.
So what happens if they don't want to be mayor, they have to?
They don't have the time.
Just resign.
The vice president of the United States can't say no.
Yes, he can.
They can't?
Yeah, he can.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so if you don't add those as a provision, what the first.
If the vice president won't, if the vice president says no, it goes to the next in the line of succession.
Does it ever happen?
No.
We've never had to go to the speaker of the house, or period.
Never passed by.
Oh, my goodness. I'd like to take it just a straw vote.
I was
Okay.
about to do the same
Let's do
thing.
it.
So if you want option one, which is
Just put
what's
the
currently on the
major,
screen.
I put B major difference, B1 major difference between the two.
So the biggest difference between the two options, option one, if there's a vacancy, council appoints a mayor.
Pro tem doesn't step in right away?
No.
Oh,
Option two, if there is a vacancy, the president of council becomes the mayor.
If option one, can they appoint a council member?
We could absolutely write that
We can mix them too.
in. We could fix them.
Mix them.
Yeah.
My opinion would be to have the president of council become the mayor automatically. It's already understood, and take that position. If something happens, you're the successor. So hopefully they would take that into consideration. And then I like the part about having, if it's 2 years, they have to be voted in the next general election.
So what you just described is the Grove Board.
Yes, whatever.
All right, raise your hand, sorry.
Aren't you taking away the option to refuse?
Yes.
Anybody can refuse anything.
It's the expectation that you're not going to refuse, but there are things that change.
If someone refuses, I think the council would vote for another president of council, then that person automatically would become the mayor. I would assume that would work that way.
But imagine if we don't explicitly state, if we don't explicitly state the option to refuse, what would happen is the president of council becomes the mayor, and then if they feel they couldn't serve that role, they would have to
They
resign.
would then resign.
So then they both lose
The council
the
member
mayorship, the mayorship and
So
the council.
you can make them refuse it, but then what do you have the council vote, and if they refuse, then
I like
In
the right,
Groveport, they have the option to refuse
Yeah.
explicitly.
I like that.
Why don't we blend the two? So if the mayor can't fulfill a position, the president pro tem steps up, the president pro tem won't do it, then option one comes into effect where the council will then vote to choose somebody.
yeah, it makes sense.
And the person stays on council.
Yeah, no one's
Yeah.
getting removed from council.
Yeah, it's
So
okay.
it's basically both. Ours is, ours one for the council is just a stopgap in case the Groveport one doesn't work.
Okay,
So it's both of them now.
yes.
Good.
Is that what everybody wants?
Yes.
All right.
Well, I would like to, have you been listening to this? Yes.
Our current president of council may have.
What do you do here?
I guess I have to want to be, since I'm council pro tem right now. So I did think about that before I accepted. And I think the other council people did too, because they've had those, I can give up the full time, you have to do this, and you do it every time.
There's a very valid reason that someone's got a full-time job. They
Yes.
can't take their position in there.
But, and they probably then should take position of.
So the
actually
So we go to the second.
Right.
Should we,
If
They take it.
Help me, I'll take your checks.
No, there we go. Yeah.
By
So-
authority, a qualified person to serve as the mayor.
We already did it. It's already there.
It's already, so basically what I'm just hearing is make Kelly make the Groveport section the section.
Yeah.
So I will do that. I will get it formatted all pretty. But this is the language that we want.
Yes.
All right. With the caveat that I will fix the formatting, can I move that we approve the language in section 503?
second.
Dick gets the second? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstain?
You do the next one. All right.
Approved. Our vacancy policy is in place. All right, duties and powers, section 504. Going through A is veto. Every council ordinance or resolution shall be presented to the mayor for consideration, except as otherwise. I want to say that I copied and pasted this from,
Did we? I thought there, did you have no? Yeah, I was just gonna say, did we keep that?
Last time.
No, we did.
We changed it.
we did decide that they should have a veto power.
Yes. we
I
did.
forget why, but it was a,
I think we questioned ourselves.
but the last I recall, it was in. And
Yeah.
it was a reaction to a specific,
Yes.
powers concern. But I
Yeah.
don't remember what the specific powers concern is at this moment, but it was,
But we decided it could be overridden.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, and that's, and if you read, it's written in,
What does
so.
I or number one mean? Is it just?
So that's how the mayor gets their veto power. If it's not presented to them, then they can't veto it. So you have to say that any ordinance and any resolution must be handed to the mayor to review. They get 3 days, and then section 2 gives them 3 days to review. If the mayor ignores it, sticks it in a drawer, it's just assumed to be passed.
So legislation passed when the mayor's on vacation.
Yeah.
That is what it is. City clerk, upon receiving notice of a veto of any ordinance or resolution, shall within 24 hours after receiving, notify each council member in writing of the veto. Failure to serve notice does not affect the validity of the veto or the council's right to override the veto.
Yeah.
When the mayor has vetoed, council may at the next regular or special meeting reconsider it, and if such legislation shall then be approved by the affirmative vote of at least 5 council members, it shall become effective notwithstanding the veto. So the idea being the veto can be overridden. I didn't do it, but I was kind of thinking, we're a tiny little village, not the United States of America, but would it make sense to throw a provision in, well, whatever I just did was bad. Would it make sense to throw in a provision saying there is no line item veto for the mayor of Minerva Park? So that they aren't cross out lines of legislation.
Maybe we'll let you guess. I don't like that whole idea anyway, but.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think the mayor should be able to do
Oh,
it,
I
so maybe we need to
Versus the
say
whole-
that they can't
and
do it.
vetoing the whole
You either
thing.
veto the whole ordinance or you let the whole ordinance pass. I don't like the idea of the mayor crossing out lines.
Didn't we say veto with comments or something?
Well, I actually pulled the minutes up there, I just wrote them earlier today, because they're from the drafting session. So you agreed on to provide a check on council. So I suggested if you allow the comments, that's the only time it was brought up. But Jen has to argue very strongly for a veto, just to stop count against the council. Just run a crush out over something.
I mean, that's kind of one of those fundamental check and
And
balances.
then Kelly wanted a 6 out of 7 override on that by council.
6 or 5.
You said
I
6
said
out of 7, it
6.
may have been changed to 5 later on, because I wasn't at that meeting where you actually voted on it.
I probably said 6 because I saw it was,
I think that I'd like to see 6. I'd like to make it binding.
I like the 5 because I like the, just like we have now.
Yeah,
It's a
I have
consistency.
fun.
But
And
I don't like
the
the.
comments. I mean, you gotta let council know why you're vetoing.
yeah, but now we're legislating comment. I mean,
I think.
I understand the idea that they can just say, I don't like it in the margins.
Yeah.
That's a comment.
No,
That's a comment.
no, you're
And
right.
like, what are we gonna require, 500 words? Like,
Like, I think
Further action.
I think most people like vetoing something are gonna be like, so, no, really, guys, like, this section is problematic, can we please revise it?
and the mayor's gonna also voice their opinions at the council meetings, right? Like, the mayor has to be at the council meetings. They're gonna say, you guys can pass this, but I really don't like it.
But that's, and even though we're not the president of the United States, or, yeah, that's right, people say that.
I think we've had discussed as well, when we named 3 days, there was discussion about whether it was business or calendar, and whether or not. that should be-
Oh, I did, I wrote down business days. I need to fix that something.
And I have a question too, because I'm just taking it cold. Every council ordinance or resolution that has been passed or before it's presented to be passed shall be presented to the mayor.
I can-
And this is-
It's written with an implicit, it is implicit that it's after it was passed, that we can fix that.
It wouldn't go on anyway.
Maybe the
Well,
person that hasn't been passed.
I could be mad at the mayor and say, y'all can't talk about that, you didn't show it to me first. I know that sounds silly.
Well, I
I'm
fixed it.
serious.
Right there.
I fixed it, I added once passed.
Thank you.
So we got some differing thoughts going on. We got 5 versus 6. We've got, I mean, what do people want to see?
You know, it gets confusing when you start changing the numbers.
Yeah,
I'll
go with 5.
5 is what we're requiring for our emergency legislation. It's what we're requiring for, what's the immediate, the special meetings,
Emergency.
right?
I think everyone agrees on 5.
Yeah.
We talked about 6 being restricted.
Well, I know Paul was saying 6, weren't you?
No, I
I will
will.
say 5.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I think we're fine.
So does anyone have any problems with the veto section? Alright.
Did we decide about the line item?
Oh, yeah, I was,
That's important.
you're right, I suggested throwing in a prohibition of a line item veto. I'd like to write that in if that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do it tonight.
Well, it does say, you do have in here, the mayor may approve or veto the whole of any ordinance or resolution. I would think that would be enough to rule out a portion of it. The whole of any ordinance or resolution.
Well, might be well to state.
Would it
the line
hurt
item.
to add something, an additional clause?
Don't say, we're open to the argument.
No, I don't think, I think that's pretty clear, the veto, the whole of
You
any
can put it in
ordinance.
its entirety or something.
It can't veto
Under A,
less than
veto 2.
Yeah.
You know, I.
The whole of any ordinance or resolution.
Yeah. That's pretty explicit, I think.
Or change it to veto.
Entirety is a bigger word that means the same thing. Oh, okay.
You know what, I think whole of any ordinance does eliminate it eliminates my fear of a line item.
Yeah, okay.
Alright,
And if they didn't like that line, they just veto the whole thing, right?
right. Okay. Next is section B, so remember we were talking about the duties and powers of, sorry?
We vote on that.
It hasn't been.
Oh, I was gonna do the whole section.
Okay, that's section 504.
So 504 is listing the duties and powers of the mayor, just to refresh. So we covered veto. B is the judicial powers of the mayor, so shall have all judicial powers granted generally by Ohio law. And shall exercise all or any such powers in accordance with the procedure, copied and pasted. Mayor shall have authority and discretion to appoint a magistrate. So 1 and 2, I copied and pasted from one charter, and then 3, I copied and pasted from a different charter. I personally, as a lawyer, I'm okay with the idea of the mayor having the authority to hire a magistrate to run mayor's court for them. You guys may feel very differently about that, and you may want to say that, no, the mayor needs to do his or her job and run mayor's court by himself. I figured, let's discuss that in case anyone disagrees with me.
We currently have a magistrate that can.
If everyone's cool with it, I'm gonna leave it in there.
Right, because we're not planning on paying mayor that much.
I think that we don't necessarily have a judge, or will have a judge. If we have a retired judge who turns it out to be our mayor, they could do it themselves. It doesn't obligate them to appoint a magistrate, because if it's in their skill
So
set.
they have the authority.
Yeah, if it's in their skill set, that choice can be made, but.
Okay. Everyone cool with
Yeah,
section
I
B?
have a question on.
Oh, yeah.
So I know that in mayor's court, they look at traffic cases. And I know that I know they look at zoning. Are the zoning violations considered criminal cases?
I don't know.
Because if you're not gonna say to determine prosecutions of
You would
zoning,
say traffic, criminal, and zoning cases? Sure.
yeah. And that might be something to just run by, but
Paul?
because that's what we do now. They, some violations go down.
They don't share from downtown.
I don't think so.
No,
I think downtown would be annoyed if they had to issue a zoning violation case.
Yeah.
The zoning is like 80% of the reason why we want a mayor's court, because then we have control over how we prosecute our zoning violations.
I think if we had criminal cases,
I mean, mayor's courts do criminal cases all the time.
Well, so,
But a defendant can request,
yeah,
just automatically that it goes.
Yeah.
So,
And some do, some don't. It's a strategic decision.
right.
This is totally tangential, but I wasn't at the meeting where we talked about mayor's courts, and I know that issues already been decided, so I'm not trying to reopen a shut case, but I just want to go on record as saying that I'm against the idea of mayor's court. I think it's fundamentally unfair, and I know that research has shown that underpins sort of profit-oriented policing because it sort of provides a conflict of interest between the mayor as the chief financial officer of the town and someone able to put citations. I know that people of color and poor people are just far more often convicted of crimes more frequently, more often plead guilty in a mayor's court than white people with means.
I
So,
totally agree, I read the same stuff, I did some research on that.
Yeah, I'm not-
Everything he's saying, I read the same thing.
and I'm not saying we should not have a mayor's court. I just want to go on record as saying that I would have voted against it if we were on it.
So I also think that this doesn't say that we have to have a mayor.
Well, I'm not, right?
I'm just saying this allows that power and the mayor can choose to,
But I mean, hearing Councilman Starr speak pretty strongly in favor of the mayor's court, I feel like if we allow there to be a mayor's court, there's going to be a mayor's court because it provides finances for the town or the village.
it doesn't actually, I don't believe from my recollection of our finances that it amounts to a whole lot of.
It's not a ton of
I
money.
don't think it covers its costs.
Yeah, no, I don't, but what it does do, in my view, for our community, its most useful cases is zoning. Because what it allows is for us to, have as much community input into how zoning is enforced. Because if we just have our rules and ship it to downtown, there will never be any give and take, right? There won't be any negotiations. This is what it says, this is what you do. But when we do it here, then our magistrate can work with a resident and say, yes, we understand your hardship, we can give you an extra month. They're not gonna do that.
Right.
Outside of our system.
I don't think that what I'm saying that conflicts with that. I 100% in favor of that. I just wish there was some way we could have one without having the other. And I don't think there's a way.
Right. So for what it's worth, and without going onto a 20-minute tangent, I'm certainly not gonna presume to argue with the statistics that are in the research that you've read. I think those statistics are correct in the aggregate, and that taken as a large subsection of jurisdictions, it's absolutely true that it's prejudicial.
My concern is as Minerva Park becomes bigger and opens up more, we'll have more people driving through our community, because right now we can't get from, if someone asks me on the south side, how do I get there? Oh, you can't get there from here. You have to go back up to Cleveland. But soon we'll be able to, so we'll have people coming through, and since we have so many developing communities around us, it may lead to an uptick of, so that's.
I would agree. So the part two to what I was saying is I think in the macro, you are absolutely correct. I think in the micro, it's more of a community by community situation. There are some communities that are just culturally more prejudicial than other communities, right? I have defended clients in mayor's courts, and I have prosecuted people in mayor's courts covering it for colleagues who are mayor's court prosecutors. And I'm here to tell you that in all of those situations, I found mayor's court more flexible to the defendant than downtown Union Court is on average, because you have, it's a very small, intimate situation where the prosecutor has the ability to say, you know what, I'm gonna let this one slide, talk to me, tell me what you were actually doing. Okay, this situation isn't really that bad. You fixed the problem, right? You've got your insurance now, you're not doing this stuff anymore, all right, cool. Pay the fines and costs and go home, kind of thing. And it's been my experience that that flexibility isn't always there in the larger setting of a municipal court, like a downtown.
I don't think that Minerva Park's gonna become like a speed trap or like a Rome, like a Montpelier Rome road, like.
Right.
But
But I've never heard, us even talking about sort of auditing, the violations, and I don't even know if we could collect the data.
again, I didn't bring this up to like, to relitigate the issue. Like,
I would say we are a little in the weeds.
But if you ever want to, you can, sit in on mayor's court, and actually, it's like, Kelly said, it's rather interesting.
Yeah. I've enjoyed my experiences on both sides of that situation. It's a very different feel from downtown.
Or you've got a judge also versus a mayor.
Yeah, I mean, and look, I've done mayor's courts, I've been in mayor's courts where it was the mayor, and I've been in mayor's courts where it was a hired magistrate. And that's a very different feel sometimes too, because I've seen a mayor for lack of a better expression, pontificate at defendants and give them 10-minute lectures on, please stop driving through my town while high. But I've also seen, the higher magistrate go, all right, let me work with you, what can we do to, ease, you clearly don't have the resources to not have a license for a while, what can we do to help you with this situation? So, it cuts both sides of the cloth kind of thing.
I mean, I've been living for a long time, so if the mayor's court turns evil,
You're saying,
I'll sit on the charters commission again.
all right, why don't we put judicial to bed? Section C is administrator supervision. Jeez. This was what we had discussed in the work session. We wanted to keep it simple rather than try to do some crazy laundry list. So the mayor is supervising the village administrator. The village administrator is responsible to the mayor as opposed to responsible to council. And the mayor has the right to discipline the village administrator. That is copy pasted from another charter that has a similar setup. Any problems with that, just as keep it simple?
What is discipline mean?
I would say that that's a common term that basically it's like being written up at work kind of thing. Or, fired, disciplined, sanctioned, however you want to put it.
Didn't we say the mayor can't fire them?
That is handled, down in the administrator session. Section D, mayor shall be recognized as the official and ceremonial head of the city and by the governor for military purposes, in case we ever need that militia. Yeah, I missed it. Mayor shall have all other powers and duties imposed by ordinance, resolution, and the Ohio Revised Code, which do not conflict with other provisions in the charter. Mayor or designee shall be the primary liaison between the village and all other political subdivisions inside and outside of Franklin County. And what I added here was shall be the primary spokesman for the village in all communications with media entities. I feel like that's what we had decided in the work session.
That's good.
All right. Does anyone have any problems with any of the duties and powers of mayor in section 504 other than mayor's work?
The only thing I disagree with is that I think the administrator should, wait, did we say administrator is the media?
No.
That's what I would say, that the administrator should be media.
So that's a point of discussion here is, does that duty go to the mayor or the administrator?
Yeah.
So it, being clear, mayor or designee, the mayor could absolutely say, administrator, I want you to talk to the news.
Yeah, I think that should be, within the purview of the mayor too, because if you have a good mayor, they're gonna say, okay, I can speak rationally on this subject. Maybe I can't, maybe I should have the administrator go talk to the media instead. But there's also sort of like a sense of community that comes from having a mayor that stands up and talks for you.
Yeah.
I for me, it's elected versus hired. I want the elected person speaking for our community.
And there's nothing in here that would preclude Chief Bell from speaking to media. Because there's some things.
As long as the mayor has designated the chief to speak on that subject.
Yeah, so I guess my question is, does it have any teeth? Because it says primary spokesperson. It doesn't preclude anybody else
I
from.
think it's really hard to keep somebody else from speaking.
Oh, I think it's actually impossible, right? Because everybody has their own First Amendment right.
Sure.
I think that the goal of this is to encourage media outlets to contact the office of the mayor first.
I think they do in most cases.
Yeah.
I think it has indirect teeth. So my read of this setup would be this. Something happens and the news the news van is on Woodley Road and the fiscal officer for some reason is standing there and spouts off a whole bunch of stuff that they shouldn't have. in their capacity as the fiscal officer. So First Amendment rights no longer really apply because it's in their capacity as fiscal officer, they've done this. There's nothing in this charter section that says, and now the fiscal officer is fired, but council in conjunction with the mayor can absolutely say, fiscal officer, you shouldn't have done that, and we're adopting the following resolution to sanction you or fire you or whatever, and they can cite this section as the dereliction of duty.
I think that works for employees, it doesn't work for council.
Right.
Council.
I would agree. I think it would be difficult for a council member to be removed for talking to the news. But if any of the village employees did that, they could cite this section in the disciplinary action.
Please choose that. Oh, yeah, I guess we have problems with.
Are you okay with
I'm
it?
okay with it, it's just not my preference.
Not your preference. Okay. Is everyone else okay with mayor?
Yeah.
In that case, I move that we approve the draft language in section 5.04.
Second.
Brian seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed. You guys got the vote, so I'm just putting it on record. I don't like to be this section.
You don't like veto?
Let you know, I've made my point clear now, so.
Any abstain?
I can move on.
I'm gonna abstain.
All right,
Do we have a?
I believe we have a majority vote.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 8, right? Well, no, we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 at the table. So.
And shall we, what was?
First one's got to write down these names.
I'm
It's gonna get more like that.
Did you abstain?
I'm abstaining.
I'll never abstain.
Thanks.
Do we have enough votes? Do we have a majority vote?
Yeah, we do.
I'm going to say that we have approved 504. And this is not legislation, right? As we continue over the next few weeks, if you guys want to rehash this, we can absolutely take some time to rehash it. You know, bring some fresh ideas.
That we get not going to hold.
No, what I'm getting at is, this is not written in stone just because I click the green font button, right? Like, we can absolutely revisit if we need to.
The whole thing as a final product.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it comes to the point where I really want to read this for council meeting.
Yeah, I'll be doing that like 10 times, so.
Yeah, and so we're getting there.
Yep, so that's Article 5, you guys.
Yay.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, boy, that was so quick.
Hey, considering how much we talked about mayor back at the beginning of this process.
That sounded sarcastic, but
You did, I'm not gonna lie to you, that sounded real sarcastic.
we got through one article in less than a lot of time.
With one abstention.
Well, now we get to do this.
That's
We had a big work meeting.
Yeah.
You know,
All right, administrator going hand in hand with mayor. Section, whoa, let's try this again. All right. Okay, section 601 is how the administrator is appointed. So some of the stuff I copy pasted, by the way, calls it manager instead of administrator, so anything that I missed, please point it out to me. Here's the other thing in the administrator section, I just highlighted it here. In my head, I'm going, do we want to say may or shall? Is it option? For some of this stuff, do we want to make that optional or not optional?
Shall.
I am not married, I'm not advocating for either. I put that there to remind myself that we should discuss it. So, the mayor may or shall appoint with the concurrence of council an official of the village who shall have the title of village administrator and shall have the powers to perform the duties set forth in this charter. Term of so, before we get to little I, do we want to say that the mayor and council have to hire an administrator? Or do we want to give them the option of hiring an administrator?
Have to.
I would give them the option of
Who else
hiring.
would do it?
So what if so look, there's feast and there's famine, right? The reason I'm saying that this is a legitimate question in my mind is, in famine, what if we want to say, hey, look, we don't have the money for a good village administrator. The mayor just needs to be a full-time mayor, do the dang job.
That's not the charter.
I understand that. I'm saying, do we want to build some flexibility?
That's the full-time, part-time administrator, they could go to part-time.
There's a lot of other things we could stop doing too.
Yeah, the zoning says the administrator has to be full-time, right?
Correct.
Okay. So,
I feel like.
I get your point, Carl.
I'm not,
You can vote no.
Let's say that the mayor doesn't want to have an administrator because just doesn't want to deal with anybody. And so they just don't, they just don't.
We just don't do it.
They're
Just,
just-
we made a compromise on the council mayor administrator form, so let's not compromise the mayor administrator form.
okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
What if we
do a mayor.
what if we do a mayor
I'm sitting here
that's
still.
fully competent of like running the administrative side of this village? Why are we then paying for 2 salaries, 2 sets of benefits, and 2 of everything else, when if we have a mayor that's fully competent? I feel like it should be May.
But that's the whole discussion we had a month ago.
Yeah.
When we went over every single one of those scenarios.
This has already been discussed.
And I've argued that too, that it's gonna be expensive. This is not a cheap endeavor in general.
But when Kim was projecting, she was projecting a part-time mayor, no benefits, and she even said.
I'll be honest, like, no offense to Kim, I was kind of discounting that because that was just her guessing,
I know, but,
you know?
but I was on board with that, because that's what, other than maybe a little bit, but just, we wanted a fairly weak mayor.
We don't have that anymore.
No,
I
It's
know.
on there.
it's a much stronger mayor position than we had started out as.
Well, that's true,
Yeah.
no other things, yes.
Plus, I think,
My better to know in that section. Yeah.
I think like you said, they could just choose not to do it.
So
And I think we think that that's a better thing to have. So I would say shall.
I'm hearing a pretty strong voice from the whole group. I don't know if we need to do a vote here, right? All right, so shall appoint. Shall have powers and perform the duties set forth, and then section I, this is something that I added in based on notes that I wrote from our work session. I wrote it such that the term of the appointment can't be longer than 1 year, at which time the appointment is either terminated or renewed. And I'm not real comfortable with how I wrote it, but I wasn't sure how else to do this. Renewed by a vote of the mayor and council majority or by the affirmative vote of 5 council members. So this is this section is a Frankenstein monster. I copied and pasted from, I forget. Pickerington. But then I added in the no more than 1 year, because that's something that we had talked about with, so that the mayor can't just hire a crony. We talked about having it be renewed each year so that we know that if the administrator's not doing a good job, the council has the ability to.
My concern about that is 1 year seems like an awful short time for employment, especially if you're looking for a good person and you're trying to, and we're not gonna be able to offer a lot of money, right? We've already sort of established that, so we're not gonna be paying,
I don't know about that.
well, I mean, we're not gonna be offering $100,000 a year plus that.
I thought I was watching one of the council meetings, I think it was a couple weeks ago, and the mayor said something about, how do we just offer $95,000 to, did I miss something? Did I misconstrue that? I didn't see that one.
Well,
Maybe I heard the wrong part, because it's a little loopy on the. I think it come up with anything.
Right. Yeah. And I'm saying,
Yeah, I think that what you're saying is correct. I think if you have somebody that you want to hire that's good, you want to give them some indication that they're going to not pick up and move and come here and then lose the job in a year. I think a 2 year, with the ability to get rid of them,
So look, I can take that out entirely, and it's just whatever council and whatever the mayor and council negotiate for the contract, they can negotiate a 4-year contract if they really want to.
I think that's a good, I'm pulling on the whole thing, I know this specifically, because I like the idea of having council have the ability to go, whether it's.
To do a review.
Yeah, whether it's 4 or 5, because I think that forces the administrator to work with both the mayor and council, because they know that there's something on the line. You know, I don't disagree with the 2 year, I think that's a good amount of time to get something done. And it gets, 1 year is really not enough, because as soon as you start, you're less than a year in.
Yeah.
I'd say make it 2. I don't disagree with the provision. I just think.
You think we need to do 2
Because,
years?
yeah,
Yes.
every council person we've talked to says it takes about a year to get up to speed anyway, so this person will be just
Right.
getting up to speed.
What happened
Presumably
to that?
they're gonna
What
have
happened
basic
after that?
knowledge.
So I want to ask this question because I want people to think about it, not because I'm trying to advocate for anything, but does it make it messy at all if we end up in one of these, so let's say there's a vacancy and we're appointing a new mayor, midterm, blah, blah, blah. So we could be if I'm interpreting things correctly, could we be in a scenario where we have a new mayor who gets saddled with an administrator that they can't do anything about for half of their term before that administrator?
Council would say, I want to fire him, and
That's
council
true.
agrees. and
No,
they fire him.
you're, that's absolutely true.
Hire for cause, it's there.
Or no call, I mean, we're
There
not.
should be a performance review with corrective action if that's a problem.
Yeah, like I said, I was just talking out loud. I just
Yeah.
want to make sure that I'm thinking through all of the, because we
Yes.
have so many different little things that can happen, between vacancies and blah, 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 blah. So,
With the 1 year, thing we're talking about, it's really the same as a performance review after 1 year anyway. We're gonna hold one.
and for the record, that's what I was I was trying to write this in such a way that it works like an annual performance review. It's just, instead of a sheet of paper with check boxes, it's council has a meeting where they say, we're still cool with the administrator? All right, we're still cool with the administrator.
So I have a question. I don't know employment law, but what does it mean that when Ohio is an at-will?
What that means is that you can be fired for any reason or any lawful reason or no reason. You cannot be fired for an unlawful reason.
And I worked, thank you, I worked at Ohio State and for like 30-some years. And I swear, I had a year-to-year contract.
I think a lot of people have year
Yes,
contracts.
And,
It's changing. It's going to 2 years.
but, it didn't, and people don't not want to work at Ohio State because it was, 1 year.
We're not gonna be
Safe, though.
Ever since like.
No, especially or not the, United States.
So let me ask you a
But I know you want us to have a militia.
Let me ask this question before we go any further. Let's run the Evan test. Does anyone actually want 1 year, or is everyone wanting 2 years?
So I have a different argument in this. So I think that the point of this provision was a guardrail on allowing somebody to be appointed for too long, right?
Yeah.
Meaning that, the appointment is here, and so what is too long? That's, I think, what we should be putting in there. So 10 years is too long, obviously, right?
Oh, yeah, like a single contract.
Is
Yeah.
5 years too long?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can we do something in between?
You
You
know,
say-
Is 3 years too long?
No more than 2?
So
I think 3 years is too long.
is 3 years too long?
I think so.
I think so.
So then 2 years.
2 years.
There you go, we're done.
Yeah,
We're done.
I could do that.
Does anyone?
We didn't ask if anyone thought 2 years was too long. You didn't ask the next question.
You're actually like tricking us.
See, I
It's almost like that's my job or something.
I like 1 year, but I accept the fact that you are going to attract somebody a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's a question I would have. Is, if you were looking for a job and they say, okay, here's a 2 year contract, are you willing to?
I still think a lot of people are thrilled to get a 1 year contract myself.
Can we give the mayor the option?
It's no longer than a 2 year contract.
Give them the option.
It is up to the person writing the contract to write a 1 year contract or 2 year contract. And I imagine when it comes time to,
If we-
shop for this
If
person.
we say not longer than 2 years, then council is absolutely empowered to do a 1 year instead based on their own discretion.
At least one that I
And
want
actually,
to.
you can actually, something
Well,
about,
give
you
it a little
can't
bit
go
of-
into contract with things that aren't appropriated and there's some weird stuff.
Because if you've got the perfect candidate, and you say, well, I don't want to, you should have that option.
Gives them the-
You know what, let's get through this section and then, so, okay, go ahead.
I just want to know why anything that
I'm sorry, what?
it says, the mayor shall appoint and conclude the positions of the village, shall advertise. That means sounds like a big account to the existing official. Why can't we simply say,
That's copy pasted language, I'm open to change.
yeah, we could just say,
Do you just want to say, with the concurrence of council, a person who shall have
yeah,
I think what they're going for here is this is not, it's an official rather than just an employee or something.
I understand, and I think that confuses things. If you could just say, like they do in Johnstown, council will appoint a village administrator. I mean, is here.
It's a straightforward.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna, not capital,
Yeah,
So that,
yeah.
because they don't put it.
administrator. So, all right,
Thank you.
it sounds like there's a majority of people in the room saying, let's do 2 years.
Yes,
Yes.
but could you get?
I'm really unhappy with everything after that comma, and I am looking for help with how to word that better.
I would like though to, ask Paul if, different Paul, if we can do that, because I think, that you cannot spend money that you don't have, because that hasn't been appropriated. And so I think all of our contracts, all the legal and everything, aren't they all one-year contracts?
Yeah, I see what you're saying, I see what you're saying. I have a feeling there's a way to get around it in the contract, right? So,
I don't know,
so when legal would write it, right, it's on the provision that,
the money is appropriated.
Yeah.
That would work for me.
I guess your point is, can you appropriate money for more than one fiscal year?
Well, no, can you hire somebody for longer than, when the money is not
Well, you do a
appropriated?
budget every year, what are some changes in the budget?
is we have ongoing employees, right? Like our police are ongoing
Yes, they
employees. We have to appropriate money for their budget every year, but they're ongoing employees. There's no problem with hiring somebody with the expectation they'll be hired here forever.
Does the village not have any contracts with anyone for more than 1 year?
I don't believe we do. Oh,
Not employees.
Yeah, we have ongoing
We
employees.
have contract retainers, we have retainers that go for more than 1 year. And those retainer contracts, though, they can be terminated within 30 days at any time.
Carrot Fisher is a year.
So the administrator will be under that.
But the other thing is that she's right, Pam is right about appropriation, so council controls first, right? So if council decides not to approve a budget for the police, then the police don't have a job, even though they're technically not terminated. What's the mayor going to do about that? She can't pay them, so essentially they've been let go. I mean, that's I'm just being technical. I'm not saying.
And I like Brian's idea.
I mean, look, I think probably the response to that, at least in the context of this article, is that the administrator will have a written contract. And so if the council were to actually vote to appropriate $0 to fulfill that contract, we would get sued by that person for breach of contract.
But I think what Brian said is, it was a 2-year contract with the provision that said, that it's funded, it's monies are appropriated.
Hopefully you'll run that contract.
But again, you could pass it by, the council.
I think the thing that would be important is whether we feel that somebody would take the job, would not take the job because it's only a 1-year contract. Would be pretty simple to say 1-year contract.
So if they can,
These other ones, some of the ones that Paul had given us, the other charters, I don't see that they even address.
Oh, yeah, they just straight up don't address it.
It's sort of weedy.
Yeah.
We just don't.
I was adding this in A1 is in there because of what we discussed at the work session. I can eliminate the whole section. If that is how the group is now feeling.
Well, so if what you were trying to get at was annual council approval, why do we, instead of that being a term of contract, it's just required that council?
There shall be,
Yeah,
council shall,
on the anniversary date of employment, council shall, vote to continue affirmation of said employment or.
so my follow-up question to that is, does the mayor get any input in that vote?
Well, not that for detail.
That's true. Well,
No,
I don't know.
I don't know, no, I honestly,
She's hiring the person, right?
Right.
And then the
So-
council's kind of, if we don't like the person, they're not working with us, and they have that option. Is it a super majority?
I think it is, I don't say.
Can we? Would there be any reason why the mayor would make a
We can do that.
recommendation? Recommend to council that they affirm another year? Or they recommend that they do not? I mean, that way, they both have voices on it.
We haven't given the mayor a vote, we've given the mayor a veto.
Yeah.
But you can make recommendations, why not?
Oh, yeah.
You know, but,
Council has a question or comment?
I just would be concerned that you're overlapping into HR law, and I would be concerned about that. If you're essentially making them a full-time employee, giving them benefits, but under a contract, and then you're talking about vetoing and other things, I think you should just consult with the HR.
Well, we've been consulting with the lawyer, I'm not sure, I think we've talked about this, what we're allowed to do, what we're not allowed to do.
So this charter will dictate what can go into that contract that we have with the administrator. Period, end of sentence. That contract will not be able to include provisions that violate this charter. So in terms of my opinion, my personal opinion is on the HR law side of this, whatever we put as a requirement in the charter is gonna be reflected in the contract. And so that administrator is not gonna have some kind of breach of contract claim against us as long as we're following what's in our lawful charter.
And if you think about it, if you're in a normal private sector position, you could be terminated by your manager at any point. If you're doing something that's negligent or it's not within your duties, now we're just giving it by a committee to do that. So it's actually more beneficial, I think. I'm sorry. Listen, you could be fired by your manager or your work, by one person. Without any consultation by anybody in HR and I think at least now you've got a committee of people who might be doing a bad job, but, I don't know, what if they're best friends with the mayor and they've got a 5-year contract and they're doing a terrible job. You can't vote them out. You can vote the mayor out, I suppose.
You know what, maybe,
That's not-
based on what Paul's saying, it's making me even rethink A. I don't know if I like the word appoint, maybe we should be using the word hire or retain. Because appoint to me implies something other than being a regular employee.
Yeah, we're hiring this position.
We are hiring an employee, not appointing an official.
I think it raises there.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I,
We've got one more big agree on.
Hey, we're in bonus section.
Oh, and then it's
This is all great.
You put retain instead of hire.
I said retain, I said hire or retain or something.
They are excited about hire.
We were.
Concurrence of council, do we want to firm that language up with the majority vote of council for hiring? Because concurrence doesn't
Yeah.
make sense.
you need to change one now because you used the word one. I don't know.
Yeah, we're gonna change it. If we even keep one, I don't think we have clearly decided what we want to do with it.
I think we should
Any of
just
this.
highlight it and
I can highlight it.
Yeah, it may just be just good to get rid of the whole thing.
There might be something we should ask Paul about and see. what he can-
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense to like define the contract, but it's also gotten messy and I don't know how you do it right now.
Can't we just say that they do a annual review? So rather than saying all of this, every,
Council shall by resolution.
because they could fire them at any time. So they just need to look at what is your performance, here it is, good, good, bad.
So what's the mechanism for termination? Because can council fire at any time? I thought we had said.
Council cannot unilaterally.
That was in the hands of the mayor, right? So,
Nothing in this charter shall prevent me or otherwise waive the right of council to terminate the services of village administrator at any time, subject only to the terms set forth. Village administrator may be revoked by, so this was a copy paste. I was operating with the assumption that we would,
You got the vote of the mayor and council. So both.
yeah, I don't think I did that right, because what we
copied
did,
it from somewhere that had.
I didn't do that right. So this section needs fixed because I didn't do it right. So that's not good. Oh, never mind, I did it in B, but B conflicts with A. So I still didn't do it right. Yeah,
If they
all right.
do it five councils, or by the vote by the council members.
So again, copy paste, right?
Yeah.
So,
I don't think I dislike B. It kind of gives you the.
well, we're having the mayor do it, but we had talked in the work session about it has to be the mayor and council. So this is gonna be a special situation. This is outside of our normal legislative process. Everyone needs to understand that because we're asking the mayor to vote on something.
Well, the mayor and council hired.
No, I don't think it's the mayor who votes. I think it is that the mayor brings this to council and says, this person needs to be, I'm bringing this to you to affirm the termination of this person.
It's
Or,
like a reverse hiring.
Yeah, it's reverse time.
or council can do it themselves, according to this.
So I don't think that's what we can want.
Right, I think A needs to be changed or eliminated.
Be in charge. Yeah, no, so A is right out, because I believe that we had, again, my recollection of why we opted to have a mayor at all was that the mayor was the one person that the administrator is beholden to. They are their one boss.
But then we talked about them working better together.
Well, yeah, they have to play nice, and we added stuff to incentivize them playing nice. But in the end, right, and part of the playing nice is the mayor decides to fire, and the council has to approve that fire. But it is the mayor making that decision.
So if we eliminate A and the second clause in B, does that solve our problem? Does that do what we had talked about in the work session?
I think so.
Not a vote of the mayor, right? It's a recommendation of.
Is that the village administrator may be removed by the mayor?
Approval, instead of vote, it's with the approval of the mayor, and there we go.
Yeah.
All right, so if I do,
Because the mayor brings it, it may be removed by the mayor with consent of council.
actually, I like that better.
Yeah.
By,
How do you define consent of council?
Well,
Five out of seven votes, I think.
That's what you said you didn't like that. I thought.
No, consent of council is fine. The mayor is making the choice to fire.
Yeah, I think you need like just a council firing them unilaterally.
Right, there is no way for the council to fire the administrator without the mayor's approval.
and it'll be a resolution or something, or a motion. So,
With the exception of the 1 year or 2 year.
Well, no, we didn't agree on
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
That got
I
highlighted.
like that.
Because again, I think I think we should probably ask that provision, in my opinion.
I think if you take that provision away, you take this away, basically, to me, the administrator is not beholden to council at all.
So the administrator is always beholden to council because that's who appropriates the funds for their paycheck.
Yeah, but that's more difficult to do.
And you can use that contract.
No, it's not. That's as difficult as one reason.
So,
Okay, then you're gonna not appropriate it for all administrative.
so I think more directly than power of the purse, the incentive for the administrator to play nice with council is whenever their contract is up, whatever length it is, they will have to have a majority vote of the council approving them continuing working for this village. And if the mayor gets sick of their crap, they go to council, ask council to pass a resolution recommending termination, and they're done. So they have to keep them happy and they have to not tick them off. That's both ends of that equation, in my mind.
I guess that goes back to me that I would want, I would want the contract to be one-year.
I would love, personally, I would do a 1 year contract, but I'm hearing people say 2 years, so that's why I put 2 years in.
Well, if you want to have someone move here to take this job and you give them a 1 year contract.
I think lots of people move lots of places for 1 year contracts.
You're requiring that.
It's in there, we haven't talked about it.
Yeah, we skipped way ahead. All right,
We said we have to live in Franklin County.
tell you what, let's go back up to the top. We'll come back to section 606. So we're gonna skip section A. Let's go to B, let's see what else we can get done in 20 minutes. So I've got no council member or the mayor shall be eligible for appointment as village administrator during the term for which the council member or the mayor has been elected or for 1 year thereafter. Kind of keeps you from double dipping. Does that jive with everybody?
You're there, I don't know about the 1 year thereafter, right?
This was a copy paste, but yeah,
I would like it better that no council member or the mayor shall be eligible for appointment as village administrator during a term of office.
and just leave it at that.
And just leave it at that.
How's everybody else feel about that?
Because if you have,
So really, I can just put it here.
because in the best case scenario, if you have Soray's example earlier, if you have a very capable mayor who has the skills to be the administrator, then maybe our best option is they resign as mayor and become the administrator.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
Appropriate.
The next mayor,
So, anyone have a problem with
the
B?
president pro tem who's the temporary mayor.
Right, that's the appointment, didn't you say the mayor?
Oh, yeah, correct. Shall be eligible for,
Appointment, I was-
Yeah, there you go.
okay. 602, qualifications, copy paste, we're going to someday. I'm seeing what we can get people happy with, and then we'll jump back to problem sections. Let's see. Shall be considered on the basis of executive and administrative qualifications in the area of public management. You can't get much more vague than that, but again, this was a copy paste. I wasn't sure how specific we wanted to get. We can kind of leave that up to the mayor and council as far as I'm concerned. But if people aren't comfortable with that, then here's the place.
I think that's one of the key things, the key thing.
So here's the thing, that the caveat which he was talking about is at the time of appointment, at the time of hiring.
I don't.
No, not even at the time of appointment, the village administrator need not be a resident of the village. Oh,
It's,
Yeah.
you don't have to be a resident when you're hired, but then after you're hired, you either have to move into the village or you have to be at least in a county adjacent to Franklin.
I thought that was just recently. I thought Eric made a point, we asked him that, he said it was against the law to do that.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I
I
remember that.
don't think you can
Yeah.
force someone.
Well, then someone has an unconstitutional term.
They may, I think it's just recent though.
Yeah,
He mentioned it was just recent.
I don't remember if it was Eric or Paul, but I remember one of them had said those provisions are on.
I'm not sure it's true, I'm just saying.
So do we want to just eliminate B?
I think so.
Yeah.
Do we hire someone who lives in California and let them work remotely?
But what, you're the council's gonna hire someone who's like remoting in Alaska, right? You're pretty dumb to do that.
Yeah.
I'm expecting someone to do a good job.
Yeah.
Like,
So if we just do that, are we happy
You
with
can
it?
do a lot of things
I trust-
virtually.
I trust our elected officials to have a basic level of intelligence, like that's.
Okay, I'll run that.
Okay.
You're just saying that for the tape.
All right, section 602 now has one section, and it just says, be considered on the basis of executive administrative qualifications.
Well, yeah, but I, as dumb as that seems, I think that's important. Right?
Yeah.
It explicitly states that this is what the charter is directing you to hire based on, not like
Looks, money.
looks, money, how well you,
Schmooze.
yeah.
Social relationships.
All right, powers and duties, the nitty gritty. Shall be the chief administrative official of the village. I did copy paste, I think, all of this. Chief administrative official of the village. Village administrator shall be responsible to the mayor for the proper administration of all affairs of the village. And to that end, subject to the provisions of this charter, village administrators shall have the power and shall be required to appoint and remove all employees of the village in the manner provided in this charter, prepare the budget estimates annually, submit them to council, and administer the appropriations adopted by council. This is where I put in from our work session, prepare and submit to council and to the public annually, not later than February 15th, because the other charter, it was like January 31st. Complete report of the finances and administrative activities in the village for the preceding year. Keep council informed of current financial condition and future needs of the village. Delegate to subordinate village employees any duties conferred upon the village administrator by this charter or by council action and hold them responsible for their faithful discharge. See that the laws and ordinances are enforced and perform such other duties not inconsistent with this charter as may be required by council, the mayor, or the revised code. I added in the mayor. What I copied from was just council or revised code. I didn't think that synced up with what we were doing here, so I added in council, mayor. Frankly, I think we should probably get rid of council just to be internally consistent, but.
Would you read the section about by law,
I'm sorry?
something about enforcing the law?
Oh, see that the laws and ordinances are enforced.
Based on what we heard last week, it seems to me this is a pretty big departure from the way things work right now.
It
because that's what
explicitly
they
is. So what this is basically doing, tying what you just said to what Dick is asking,
Yeah,
it's putting the administrator in charge of telling the police chief what to do.
That's what I was.
So in your pyramid, you've got the police officers, the police chief, the administrator, the mayor. That's what this system is creating.
well, I was also thinking about in terms of the finance committee, the fiscal officer that spoke to us works with the finance committee, and that's how isn't that how the budget gets presented? I'm looking at you.
Yeah, yeah.
So, this really, if the administrator is preparing the budget, I think, that we ought to be a little more explicit about the entities in the village that they'd be working closely with.
So what this is implying is that the fiscal officer would answer to the administrator.
Okay,
So realistically, what would happen in the real world is the fiscal officer in conjunction with the finance committee prepares this budget, presents it, and then the fiscal officer is handing that budget document to the administrator to look over. And then the administrator it is the administrator's job to present it to the village.
Or delegate that back to.
Or delegate it back to the fiscal officer.
Well, okay,
But at the end of the day, the buck has to stop with someone or some people, and it's gonna stop with the administrator and with the oversight of the mayor under this system.
got it.
So the mayor, keep going back to, why didn't we just choose administrator? It just seems like you've got. the
So you
mayor-
guys keep commenting that we made a strong mayor, and I just couldn't disagree more. The mayor's pretty darn weak in this charter.
We've had veto power.
Yeah, they don't actually run anything.
I
And,
don't
well,
think so.
the
I think,
administrator reports to the mayor.
There you go.
They
And
do.
The administrator has all of the power because the administrator has everybody reporting to them. So how is that not strong when you have someone working for you and it's essentially like my managing director at work? If you tell them to do something, I'm gonna do it. It's just the way it is.
The mayor can't
The mayor,
terminate you.
the mayor can tell the administrator to do whatever she wants him to do.
And I think that's the beauty of this compromise, right? We came to a compromised decision, right? In our mayor administrator firm. And I think like you, it's a much stronger mayor position than we had originally set out to write. And Kelly thinks it's a way weaker mayor situation than he really wants.
I would like to know exactly, because I'm curious now, what do you think is weaker than our current situation right now? Because the mayor doesn't have veto power. The mayor still is in control of all of the employees of the village. She essentially still is now with this charter, because she has the direct ear of the administrator who reports directly to her and can only be fired by her.
Because at the end of the day, the mayor cannot unilaterally fire the administrator, right? So let's say the administrator is giving an order to the police chief, and the mayor tries to countermand that order. The administrator says, no, I won't I'm not, ignore what the mayor just said, I'm telling you to do this, and it blows up. And the mayor says, screw you, buddy, you're fired. The mayor still has to go get 5 members of council to agree to fire that administrator. And the administrator gets to stand in front of council and say, hey, look, that's not the mayor's job. I'm doing my job because the power and duty of controlling the police chief is in my article of this charter, not the mayor's article.
Yeah.
This is a weak mayor.
I disagree.
I agree with Paul. And what happens is the administrator just packs up their toys and goes home. And we're back to where we were before.
Because the mayor shall appoint the administrator, so.
Have to hire another one.
I guess the more that I think about it now, the more I'm like, well, why didn't we just choose the administrator? Because everything, it's almost like the administrator, in my opinion, the administrator and the mayor just kind of coexist and they're kind of like one team. Then everybody else is sitting on the other team. I can see it for the ceremonial purposes of having a spokesperson and having that, but I don't know.
Now, let me just say, I agree 100% with you, I don't think we should have a mayor, but I think the reason it was put forward was that you wanted an elected official with some
Yes.
oversight over the administrator, which is not, I mean, I don't disagree with that either.
Yeah.
And maybe the administrator, one person to report.
And someone who lives in our community.
Except for the mayor.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, we're putting ourselves back 2 months.
No.
No, I'm saying, like, if we continue on this path, we are putting ourselves back 2 months.
We're not.
So,
Well, but I think it came up with the budget, and who was preparing, and who was.
Sure.
Yeah. And Kim did ask that when we do the organizational chart, it's clear who's reporting to whom.
look, if we wanna take, 3, 4, and 5 out and move, no, listen. If we wanna take 3, 4, and 5 out because we're gonna put those sections in the next article, Article 7, where we list the duties of the fiscal officer, and then just as a general concept, say that the administrator is in charge of the fiscal officer, just like they're in charge of the police chief, that can clean this up.
I'm fine with that too.
If that makes people feel more comfortable, I think it's it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. at the end of the day.
I really liked the charters that specifically said that, you know, somebody needed to have these reports go to council
Mhm.
things, and where you put it, I'd be okay, either place. But I like the idea that there's a person that annually needs to.
So the reason I kind of like it where it is, for what it's worth, is the administrator's job is to oversee all aspects of what's going on in the village, while the fiscal officer is only thinking about the fiscal officer things.
Sure.
So what should, in my mind, happen is the administrator will work with the fiscal officer, but they will be keeping in mind the needs, wants, and desires of all of the other departments and the village as a whole, talking with the mayor, who is hopefully liaisoning with the people, and put together an annual budget that is holistic rather than laser focused. So that's why I would advocate for keeping these sections where they are, but yes.
And I like the administrative activities of the village too, kind of an overall view of what happened last year.
We can compromise and take those three you had highlighted and arrange them such that it says, assist the administrator in the preparation of budget estimates annually, assist the administrator in the preparation and submittal to council, you know.
When we talk about financial.
Yeah.
Well, my point though is, I would actually prefer that it be the administrator who presents to council, not the fiscal officer.
Who's arguing against that?
No, I don't think.
Oh, why we need you.
Okay, so are we keeping this the way it is?
Yeah, and then
So number 2 though, should we change a point to higher?
I don't know.
I think
Because
it's
this is a copy paste provision. Employees of the village are, I think they would probably be hired. We can absolutely check that.
Police.
When we-
commissions, I believe, is a point that was made.
Hire, what if we say this, hire, appoint, and remove?
There you go.
Oxford Common.
Okay. Anything else for this section?
What would be really interesting is when we do present it to the public, that we have the beginnings of an organizational chart.
Yeah,
A good one, a good one.
Yes,
Yes.
it would explain a lot of things, real pretty.
You make it real pretty, right? Yes, yes.
It would explain a lot of things.
All right, it's already 8:25, I kind of want to get through the next 2 sections.
Sorry.
Most reflects that everything.
I really want to throw a pin at you. All right, 604, mayor and council relationship to manager. Except as otherwise provided in this charter, if for personnel appointed by the mayor or council, the mayor, council, and council members shall deal with the administrative employees solely through the village administrator.
Yes.
Mayor, council, and council members shall not give orders to any subordinate of the village administrator, either publicly or privately. Mayor or any council members may be found guilty of malfeasance in office for a violation of any of the provisions of this section. That's why I keep saying we have a weak mayor, for the record.
Done.
Anyone have a problem with any of that?
His relationship to administrator.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right, thank you.
I gotta,
But it doesn't stop the mayor from telling the administrator to go tell somebody to do something. Go tell the chief he needs to do this. Okay?
I think you and I are probably just gonna have to agree to disagree on that one.
And if that direction is not to the liking of the administrator, they are also not obligated to pass that on.
Yeah, typically you try to please your boss.
I'm very, very well tried.
In corporate America, I don't, you probably don't either.
Can we think of another word besides deal?
Yeah, I didn't really like that either.
I have
Yeah,
I have a concern. I'm willing to go along with the majority, but we talked about the mayor. Early on, we said we wanted to have the mayor who had local information and concerns about the community and was, focused that way. By taking away any input to the police, I'm questioning it, I'm not gonna raise a ruckus, but I just am a little concerned.
That could be what some of the charters have the mayor, have the police and the fire report to them, and other units, they divided it up, some charters.
Yeah.
I don't agree or disagree with that, I'm just saying, some may have thought we had the exact same concerns, because some charters have done that.
Well, maybe that's a problem with what they were saying, the word deal. I don't think there should be any prohibition from the mayor communicating with the police chief and saying, hey, how are things going? Let's talk. That's different from you shall patrol Woodley Road between the hours of 6 and 9, kind of thing.
Do you want to have work?
Shall,
I think that what they're trying to accomplish, because I read this in several other.
Oh, I see what
charters,
you're saying.
it's just to enforce a chain of command, so that these situations you're bringing up hopefully wouldn't happen,
shall formally instruct administrative employees solely through the village administrator.
How's it different than,
I'm just.
does it all get?
What is
Then there's a
Sorry.
section that you said they shall, was that just council shall not talk?
Other
Or
words,
the mayor shall not talk?
So
That's the next section also.
does Dee do everything that you, or Dee now do everything that you were looking for to accomplish here, that we were looking for to accomplish here? Right, because what we're saying is that we don't want to give orders to any subordinate.
Manage? Shall manage the, yes.
asking two
Yes.
charters to call it dealing with.
It
I
would
mean,
be
you know,
manage instead of deal with, and I like that a lot. Of course. How's that sound?
I'm not trying to be difficult, but when you say give orders, if the council passes a resolution for somebody to do something, is that giving orders?
No, that's law. I think that's different.
Maybe direct orders.
I think the intent is verbal or written, do this.
The legislation
I don't have legislation work.
would probably be to instruct the village administration to take some action, right? It would feel like odd legislation for the legislation to read that Officer Jones will patrol Woodley from the hours of, 6 and 9 p.m. Right? Council could pass a resolution, directing the village.
We find that
administrator-
crime has increased during these hours and the police should provide more attention. Blah, blah, blah.
And then the village administrator would make that directive to the chief of police, who would then schedule officers appropriately.
Do we need to say anything about chain of command? Probably not, when the administrator is on vacation. Does that mean the mayor can?
605 deals with absence.
You have council in there twice. On B, the mayor.
I think that's, so what this is trying to prevent is both the body of council and Councilman Bob walking up to a police officer and saying, hey, go do this.
I'll ask for comments. That would help.
Makes him judge for it, and I thought we were friends. Okay,
There's another one right above it,
Why
about
do
the
you
name.
hate Oscar comments so much?
I don't hate them, I copy and paste.
Yeah, apparently.
They do.
All right, 604, does anyone have a problem with how it is currently written up on screen?
I think it's fine.
605, village administrator may designate by letter, so this is a copy paste. In its entirety. Village administrator may designate by letter filed with the city clerk, any qualified division head or department director of the city. That language is gonna have to change when we get done, like after we deal with the next article with the administrative departments, because I don't know what titles we're gonna use and what we're not, and blah, blah, blah. But I do know that we're not a city. Village administrator duties during a temporary absence or disability. So basically what that is saying. Anyway,
Hey, Kai, can you scroll back up just a tiny bit? I want to see. Okay, never mind, I thought.
how is it? Yes. Okay. So what that is basically saying is, to answer your question, Dick, if the administrator is gonna be gone on vacation for a week, they can designate one of the other village employees to hold down the fort. If they don't do that, or if the absence is more than 30 days, council has the option to do a resolution appointing a qualified, to basically do that for the administrator until they return or the disability ceases.
Do we need to specify that temporary absence by saying 30 days or less or something like that at that point? Or just leave it?
Well, it's there.
I think it's one of
Identified
the
later. It's identified in the next one. It's okay.
Okay, all right. If the administrator resigns or is removed, this was another part where I had a may or shall, so we have decided on shall. Shall appoint an interim village administrator to serve as the acting village administrator up to but not exceeding 60 days. This is copy paste, mind you. Prior to the expiration, the mayor shall appoint with the concurrence of council an acting village administrator for a period outlined in resolution. I feel like this is way too complicated, but that's my personal opinion. Acting village administrator shall perform the duties of the village administrator until the mayor appoints with concurrence of council a new village administrator. They've added like, what, 2 or 3 layers of temporary people instead of just saying, hey, if they're gone, appoint a new one.
Can we simplify it?
I would like to.
Oh, but can the new one be a temporary new one, or does it need to be a real hire?
I don't know what it is. They're trying to account for the fact that it might take more than 2 or 3, it may take 2 or 3 months to find the next qualified permanent person.
And, it occurred to me that if we, let's say we have I don't know, a part-time administrator, but there could be a part-time administrator somewhere. We haven't said that part-time administrator there couldn't be a part-time administrator where we are. So we might get somebody that knows what they're doing, and they just come in for a few, 10 hours a week or something to keep things moving. So that's what it is, yes, it's allowing somebody.
Stopgap measure.
Yeah,
Yes.
why do you look?
So I guess, does anyone have a problem with anything in 605?
My question is, can the village administrator designate the mayor for their temporary absence?
Then the mayor can't talk to them.
No, and it's because of the earlier, because in the mayor article, I think it specifically says that they can't.
Well, it says that they can't be the village administrator, but can they be the designee of the village administrator? That is it.
Oh, I'm gonna be gone for a week, Mayor Bob just hold down the fort.
Right, because if
Does anyone have a problem with that?
Or if we're not the size of our current government, when we, and our other employees, are we expecting the police chief to be the village administrator, the fire chief to be the village?
I do not have a problem with the mayor being able to be the temporary administrator. Does anyone else have a problem with that?
No.
I think it's a good
Okay.
idea.
Maybe a better idea.
Well, that-
And with a not to exceed.
It's not a bad idea, because it goes against all the other stuff. Like, to me, it's a natural thing to have the mayor come in and the administrator's gone. But we haven't written that way all the way through though. We have it written so the mayor can't talk to anybody, but yet they're going to fill in when the administrator's gone. It just doesn't make sense to me.
the mayor can talk to people, the mayor just
Can't
can't
get
countermand orders.
Right, so, but when the administrator is unable to be there and then they can become a temporary administrator, then they're getting more. It's just kind of odd. It's just odd.
If the mayor
Is
is
that odd? Is
the
it-
temporary administrator, they're not gonna be in that position for more than what, 60 days,
30,
30 days?
maximum of 30.
Before they hire another village administrator. And so it makes sense for the mayor to sort of step into that role because everybody's already reporting to
And hire
them.
their
And-
vice-
Well, no, they're hiring the replacement of the village administrator whose duties they're taking over because they're their supervisor. If I were to quit, my supervisor would take over my duties.
Absolutely.
I think that is a normal process.
It is, it's also normal for your supervisor, your manager to talk to your subordinates and say, give them advice, give them a duty to do something. It's
So
not
maybe we
unusual.
should clean up those other sections so that it's a little less severe.
I mean, the whole thing about the whole,
I'm gonna agree with Paul, I'm not
it's weird,
really
it's just,
having the mayor in there automatic, I don't think it's more common.
Not automatic. I'm
It's
just
not
saying-
automatic.
The way it's currently written, it's not automatic.
It wouldn't be automatic, so the village administrator is going on a week's vacation. And someone needs to keep the engine running for that week, right? The boat's gotta stay afloat. They can, by this language, say,
Any division head,
Any division
director,
head.
they can go to the police chief, fire chief, fiscal officer,
village
village,
planner,
they can go to the clerk, I think.
possibly,
if they're going, which most managers would do, they would go to their direct reports and they would have somebody fill in for them. That's not unusual, but it's also not unusual to have your boss look for you.
right, and so my question was solely that mayor wasn't listed there, and I think mayor, again, if we're having a mayor, I think this is
Yeah,
reasonable.
I think adding them to that laundry list makes sense.
Yeah.
That fix it?
I don't think it broke it any worse.
Maybe we can sit on it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I don't think we're gonna be voting to approve this article, I think everyone's gonna have to sleep on this one for a week.
Because it's not like the president of the United States where, somebody has to be absolutely completely in charge. If it goes,
And then 606, we've already gone through. Do we wanna argue about this anymore, or it's 8:40, do we all wanna go home and pick this back up?
I think we need to decide our meeting on Sunday.
Yeah, so that was gonna be my next thing. I don't know that we have affirmatively scheduled a Sunday meeting. Do we want to have a Sunday meeting, or do we wanna come back in a week? So, to keep it in context, we need to
I'm up for Sunday.
finish administrator. We've asked Paul for, I still need to write administrative departments. We've asked Paul for Article 8, but there's 8 through 12. And I'm here to tell you amendments, general provisions, and probably nominations and elections are gonna go real fast. They're not complicated, there's not really, I really don't, you can laugh all you want, but I really don't think those are gonna be all that hard.
And Paul did.
Do we know the building's available?
I don't know that.
That was one of.
I assume it is, but I don't actually know.
Where should I weigh in on that too?
Yeah, have somebody.
We can do an email, I'll send an email to Rainey and ask her to just
Yea or nay?
yay or nay, are we meeting on Sunday?
You probably need to make sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. That is
That she had.
So,
Okay, anything else to discuss then?
Public meeting is end of April?
now, I did notice that, Lori Howard, is Lori gonna be doing the lake cleanup on the 27th?
We haven't heard that.
Okay, I just had on my calendar that, lake cleanup was,
She probably should be aware of.
yeah,
We're having a meeting.
yeah. We do the lake cleanups in the morning and our meetings in the afternoon, so they may not.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
All right,
we're not
my
ready
goal
on this.
for, I guess, the next meeting, whether it's Sunday or Thursday, although it'll be pushed, I'll be hard pressed if it's Sunday, is gonna be to have Article 7 drafted, but obviously we have a lot of stuff still in red. You know, we haven't, administrator is not voted on yet. And there's a lot of little stuff hanging out that in the previous articles that we can get tied up to.
But
So
that's not gonna be on the draft. We can't vote on it.
I thought we could now, as long as they're officially posted and stuff.
I don't know, can we?
I guess they're
On
not
Sunday?
general meetings. Can we vote on anything on Sundays?
If we post it as a regular meeting,
Oh, we can, okay.
why not?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, in the interest of me getting to see my son before he goes to bed, I move we adjourn the meeting.
How many people can be on Sunday, Don? If we-
I can
Because
be
we're all, if
here.
it's a regular meeting,
I have to
we
move
should
stuff around.
be there. It's kind of-
Show of hands, who can come Sunday?
I think.
I'm in full vote. I'm pretty sure that I can make it work.
Okay.
Remember, Easter's coming up too. I know that can come on Easter.
Oh, I was super happy here on Easter.
Nobody.
Why not?
Yeah, I will be out of town.
Very easy.
I just wanted to mention, as I was doing the minutes, I looked up that Queen of Horses Netflix thing of the fraudulent use, where we were talking about people taking money. And somebody, yes, there was a woman in Illinois that embezzled $54 million from a municipality of 16,000 people over 20 years. And she used it to buy horses and take a breeding. Yeah. It's a Netflix documentary.
Oh, one last comment I wanted to make, that we are approaching our budget. We are I think 24,000 out of the $300,000 budget for legal fees. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, so that's why we stopped having Paul come every week.
It helps,
Yeah.
cut it in half.
I'm hoping that we can kind of accomplish what we need by just me emailing him questions, getting an email back, and then him, I think we have to have him do the memos. Those memos are so helpful.
Oh, yes.
I second your motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Aye. Done.